Hey folks, I have no idea what I'm doing today, but I figure it makes more sense to just try and do stuff and then see where you get from there. So what we're gonna do is do a quick pass and see where we stand. Because obviously we will eventually need to update this because right now this is from our testing work. So we're gonna need to eventually set up the main room. We'll also want some kind of stand-in for the uh, sort of main NPC that will be talking with you. And what else? We need to work on that feedback loop of finishing the adventure, getting your rewards, using those rewards to sort of start building. Excuse me, I just ate. Start building our mansion up. And from there, sort of stretching out to the other menu options that'll exist outside of the mansion in the manor proper. So we're gonna do a little mind game. We imagine that we've come in, game has started. The after some intro dialogue, the game shows you a button for starting a quest. It could be some sort of little book icon, or it could be one of the nodes in the corner, maybe both, who knows. And that'll be the only thing on screen that you can click. So then you'll click that, and that'll bring you to your window that's going to show the quests that you can go on. For now, you only see one. And I don't know if we'll make it glow or anything like that, or we'll just work off the fact that people are not stupid. And which I strongly believe. I get caught up on games sometimes, so it is fine. You know, you will figure it out eventually. And I have a little bit of a rant about that in Metroid Dread in a bit. It's a positive rant for what it's worth. So now you've got here, you see your one quest. In this case, we'll just call it this one, although it's probably going to be something else, maybe something cute like an adventure for your Moosecats to go to the local grocery store and bring back some supplies. Something like that. So then you'll select the Moosecat or cats that you have. I don't know if you'll start with one or two, probably two. And you'll send them on the adventure. Still need to add a close button here, so we'll do that in a moment. Maybe there'll be some dialogue at this point, don't know, but regardless, once it's finished, you could either go to that adventure screen or you could click this button up here. And once you do that, it'll bring up the final window showing you the state of the quest. So they've come back and now you have some supplies that you need to use. So that tells me that there's a few things we need to do real quick. One is we need to add a debug close button to that adventure window because it is driving me up a wall, constantly having to do it from the menu. And then we'll go from there. So close this, and we need to add it to, I believe, the editor window. Let's go look. Technically, we need to add it to all the windows, but I don't think. What would be the cleanest way? Ah, yes, okay. So what you could imagine, and this will be much less messy once the final UI is established, but if you could imagine, what I was thinking is you could have just a close button that when you click it, any open adventure windows would get closed, but now I'm thinking about that real quick. Ah, yes. Perfect! I forgot I made this. Isn't that always fun when you're working and you don't remember that you did something? I'm just gonna turn these on all for now to give us context for where our little buddy's going. I also know why these are broken, so we'll fix these in a moment. So we could probably get rid of this one, actually. Maybe. We'll see. But, regardless, So we know that this is only going to be visible when the book is visible. So we'll do private button close button is fine. And again, this is the sort of thing that will eventually later be removed, but it works for now to sort of move us ahead. Okay, so we can now close these, and the casual viewer will notice that we're missing 2 sections. Down here, I noticed something while checking out my streams, when I do that modicum of editing that I do, that when I'm thinking, I tend to bite my lip a lot. And it's actually really funny to me. Oh, do I need this for any reason? Yes, I do. But it's just interesting catching the quirks that you have when you're doing any sort of video stuff. Getting used to your voice and that paradigm. Once you do, though, it's not that bad. Like, I generally, when I listen to myself in videos and stuff, I don't really associate it with me per se. I just associate it with the fella in the videos, you know? I also noticed, hence the drink, that I get dehydrated real fast, apparently. We will eventually figure out the gain situation. At this point, I'm actually really happy with the audio quality. The only thing you hear at this point is the generic... Well, you won't if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're watching the stream, you'll hear sort of a generic static sound, and that comes from the gain being so high because the Shure is... Oh, does that pick up in this? It does. I apologize. The Shure generally is like a 55 or 60 gain, which is real high, but that's just how it works. You normally would be in a sound studio or something, but I think it's a charming microphone, and I'm sticking with it for now at the very least. Good news is this thing holds value quite well, so if I ever want to sell it, should be pretty easy to do. There you go. Send them on an adventure. Close that. We notice that we don't see it down here because we opened up this window this way. So, but if we did, it would work. Okay. How would we like to rectify that? I mean, the obvious answer is that my UI stuff needs some work, but that's always true. This is the most frustrating part of this sort of work. But in the meantime, what we can do is just go into this prefab and do a little bit of maintenance. The first one is, you see these 2 text guys here? This is because when we unparented it that one day, it messed up the hierarchy of everything. And then from here, we just need to adjust, I believe this. Now, I suppose technically you want to use this one, but it would always work because it's not visible when this window is hidden. So in the interim, that'll be fine. It's not great, but... Alright, so we do our adventure. You see the close button works here. Send them out. Got a close button here. Can close while it's going. No harm, no foul. And then it switches over if you're in here. Otherwise, if we go into the second one and add basket case and ant lore, we can wait for it to finish up here. And when it does, boop, now we can click it and it goes away. So it's got some level of dynamism, but it needs je ne sais quoi. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need some kind of inventory system because we want to be able to give the user stuff. So the way we've been doing that up until now is we've been creating these data structures. So we've got all the adventures that you have that are like the dynamic player adventure data. We've got all the cats, all their data, and all of the rooms. Now, items. I suppose we could start by thinking of the concept of a basic item. So we're gonna create a new folder and think of a base item. Now, the thing to remember for items is that we want to make it somewhat extensible so that some of your items could be rooms. You could have items that are, healing items, consumable. So you've got room. I mean, technically everything's consumable if it's an item, I suppose, but no, that's not true. So you'd have things like equipment, potentially, rooms, which are pseudo-consumable in that they would leave your inventory, but they would be in the scene. You have actual consumables, and just in general things that we can't or haven't thought up yet. So we want to make sure that the base object has just the functionality that we can reasonably assume. So we may fork it so that we have non-consumable base items and consumable items, which themselves will extend from the item. And if we go and look, these were not abstract, correct? Yeah, they were just classes. All right, so these are our non-consumable items. And we're just gonna close a whole can of things here. And we're gonna open up the Moosecat one as well. Whoops, that is not what we wanted, actually. We wanted this one. That is absolutely correct. Because it helps us to think about what the initial information that we need is. So obviously, public string item name. We'll give it a base of dummy. That way, if we're working and we see a literal dummy item in the project, we know, whoops, we done did a oopsie. Enums can be useful when it comes to quickly sorting things, filtering, that sort of stuff. I don't know if we initially need that just for the base functionality, because we want to probably try and finish something tonight just so we feel good. Because again, you just gotta keep chugging, because eventually things start to look good. When I was younger, one of the things that I used to do a lot was draw these stick figure war things. I may start doing it again sometime just because it was so much fun. But basically, I would draw these caves instead of paying attention in class and add in little stick figures doing various things. And at the start, you've only got one little stick figure firing a bazooka that's hitting somebody that's standing on a tank or something like that. And over the course of a few classes or a few days, it builds up more and more until you've got this really dynamic combat scene. And, that's even something that low skill where it's just literally stick figures and dotted lines for parabolic arcs and stuff. It becomes very enjoyable. And you'll accidentally get better at things. And that's, you know, getting accidentally better at things is better than nothing. All right. What do we got going on? So we've got our name. I almost feel like that's enough. There's no actual function currently that I can think of for a base item. For consumables, obviously you'll have .consume, but oh, Lord have mercy. It'd be nice if I could eat things and not feel like I'm gonna burp for the rest of my life, but them's not in the cards. So now we've got our item data, which if we look at our Moosecat data, just as a refresher, we can see that it is extending from data SO container. And, so we also need this, which, you know what, after this instance of this, I'm gonna go back through this maybe tomorrow if I remember, and actually reduce the complexity of this particular class structure. But for now, we're gonna let it slide because that's just what you do sometimes. You can always refactor. That's sort of the beauty of this sort of work, is that nothing is ever truly permanent unless you are forced to treat it as such, which is a large part of why I prefer private work to professional. Because in the professional world, once it's done, you can never touch it again generally, and it's occasionally miserable. And nobody wants miserable, right? I really like this radio station. It hits the right feel for what I'm generally gunning for when I'm doing streams. Just nice and slow. Let it all work for you. Don't think too hard. Risk hurting your brain if you do. Save the hard thinking for what you're gonna snack on or similar. So now we've created these, we can back out a little bit to here. And speaking of not thinking too hard, I gone and oopsied and closed what I needed. But that's okay. There we go. Whoops. Makes sense. And naturally, one of the things that this is going to do, kind of want to say to us, but for us as well, is we can start hooking up the I/O for it, basically before we've really got all that much to work with. Ideally. First things first, we'll save our scene just in case we crash anything at any point here. Because you never know. You never know. It's possible that we won't need to use the selected item trait, but thinking on it, I imagine we will, because we will probably have selected items where when you click on them to use them or consume them, some other window will want to know what the current selected item is so that when it responds to an event, everything is fine. So. Ooh. Did I mess up the... Yes, okay. That happens. That's fine. Oh, cute, thanks. Let's see here. So now we let this reload, and there it is. And then we can attach our selected item, and we are getting real close there. Checking back on our item data. We didn't serialize the... Yeah. I love when you make mistakes and it all just kind of comes together. So now when we look here, we can see just the various items. Item count. Presumably some items are going to be stackable. We also need to make an item catalog for all the possible items you could be using. So let's do that first. Because we need a catalog of whatever the object's going to be. Interesting. So I kind of forgot I had a resources folder. We're gonna just change the name of that folder to items. And our catalogs are just of type T, I believe. Convertible. Is it always an enum? Okay. It's been a little bit. That is totally fine. So it is an enum, and then the actual collection itself for the catalog can be anything, because we don't necessarily need prefabs for items. We need scriptable objects. So the name's a little bit off, but we can make a folder called like object catalog. So let's shrink our project down and create a new folder. And in that folder, we're gonna create a I guess that we can just have one catalog for all items, really. We're not too worried about how big it's going to get. And we can always split it up at a later date, I believe. I mean, I know for a fact we can. I'm just thinking, yeah, I can just make functions to do that later, so. Okay, so we'll open this up. And we can look at one of these. So what we know about our items is that, so that list of item data, that's the ones the player currently has. So we need to now make some sort of generic item for our test bed. And the best way... Oh, in fact, this string may not be useful in the end unless we're using it for lookups. So what would be useful here would be public int count. And the reason this would be useful is this is something that would definitely be player specific. So the number of items that a player has. The name of the item would be something that would be in the catalog, because that will never change. An apple is always an apple, a pear is always a pear. And yeah, so we just need to take care of that. So with our Moosecats, they are all just prefabs. And then for our items, we just need to make a item, which also means that that item data structure we made earlier actually doesn't need any sort of delineation. All items are going to be just together in our save data. So we'll make a note there for ourselves so we don't forget, and then we'll move on. Back to our item. This is going to be a scriptable object. We're going to go over to, do I have any open currently? I do. See, I guess we'll do that. And then we can have consumable item and whatever else. I think that'll be fine. Yes. Okay, so some things are crossing my mind right now that are not problems at all. All right, so public string. Sadly, name, if you try and do that, it's going to say that you would want to do new to hide the current one. I kind of don't like doing that, but whatever. I guess we will for the sake of this project. And we'll see if that has any kind of major detrimental effect in the future. And if it doesn't, maybe we'll just start doing that. Private new string name equals dummy public. New string name. There we go. So that should work. These words must begin with uppercases. I will not. I pave my own path. So now we've got the name of the item. The count doesn't matter because that would be tracked in our data. The next thing would be like the image or art, we could say. All right, so that takes care of that. So we will have the name and the art for now, and I think that will be sufficient. Yes. So then if we come back to this window, I may end up changing or getting rid of this class. We'll see. It predates my current mentality. So what's a good non-consumable item for sort of... I almost feel like we want to skip over that for a moment here, because consumable items are so much easier to think about. And they would inherit from item. And from here, we've got public void consume. And then what would... This is a good question. What does consume do in the context of an individual item? Would this process actually be done somewhere else? No, I think not. Because it could send off an event saying that it has been consumed. My concern here is that each new item I make would need a reference to that game event. Alternatively, yeah, because they wouldn't have a sense of their quantity. Maybe we will hold off on this, and I will think about this more. That's fine. Well, we have our item, and we'll make a new one. We'll just call it a spoon, I suppose. Because you generally shouldn't consume spoons, I think. If you so desire, you can. I wouldn't judge. Well, we've only really got a check mark for now, so we can have a check mark spoon. And from there, we can come up to our item catalog. And that second value, the comparator, is with an enum. So do I want... an enum in here? It's a fantastic question. Suppose rarity works, but it would be through lookup is how we find them. So we've got breed, I guess type. Is that? It's not. Okay. Cutlery. How exciting. Whoops. There we go. I know, you want it all uppercase. Maybe I will eventually buckle on that, but probably not. Reminds me of the style guide when I was in high school that would constantly say, you have to talk this way, you have to write this way, and this is the only right way to do X or Y. And it was always funny because I hated most of it. Like, I just didn't enjoy how writing looked in the ways that they demanded that people do it. But, you know, that's the whole point of being a professional, I suppose, is putting in all that time and bugging people about it. And it was catalog? Products? There you go. I think that's the same here, yeah. I'm sure there's some really cool way with reflection or similar that we could make that even cleaner, but... Oh, interesting. So I expected items to be mono behaviors, and my rationale for that was that they would be prefabs because it's a prefab catalog. Does that work for items? Or do I want to have... I suppose it really matters or depends on how you're interacting with the items. If they're always a UI element, then I suppose so. And you can always get the data from them from the catalog without actually instantiating them. I mean, they would still be in memory. What the hey? Let's give it a shot and see how we feel. So we'll close this and let's make ourselves an item. It would definitely be... Well, we've got the mono behavior, so we don't really care beyond that. Oh. Yes, yes, fair enough. Now, obviously, we could get around that, if we think we should, by not restricting T1. Do we find any value in that? Maybe not. So thinking on this, my thought process is we might have item prefabs in scene and in UI, and in that case we can make a single prefab for each thing and populate the data in that prefab with the scriptable objects. I think that's sensible. Whoops. Okay. So we've got our item catalog. We'll go down to items and we'll make a spoon. We'll name it spoon, just as before. We will add the check mark. And then in the catalog, we will add a spoon. Okay? So now our catalog has an item in it. We need to look at our adventures. because let's say Into the Great Woods does not have a list of rewards currently. So we're gonna give it that. You know, I actually don't think getters and setters work the way I think they do in lists. Especially if I do this. Because I'm pretty sure that even if you just do a getter like this, I'm pretty sure elsewhere I can just do the list dot add or whatever. But because I'm the only one making this, I'm not going to, so... The serialization is because we want to be able to see it in our window. So we won't have wait tables for now. We're just gonna, if you do it, how interesting, 'cause that's how I've been doing this. I don't know, yeah, I don't like that. I think past me was wrong in this instance. We will write this crime and all will be better. I mean, I see why I did it. Don't mean I like it. And that's the luxury of working on your own thing. You can decide to change things. You don't have to go through a bunch of hullabaloo to do so. There we go. Now going back to our adventures. We can open up our game manager window, which I'm happy to say I have fixed so that I can see all of my cats and my adventures. We don't see items yet, which we can now fix. So let's do that. My kind of problem to solve. Okay, so that takes care of that. And then we need to do this. And double check that this is gonna work. Okay, so it's not going to, maybe? Yeah, okay, T item will be fine. So basically what we're doing is we're doing an asset lookup for this item, because I know while I'm designing this that I'm going to put everything in the same folder. Another option that we could do is literally just finding all of them and adding them manually, but I really don't want to do that. So what we're doing is we're getting the path by doing a bit of chicanery. I think that's the word I'm thinking of here. And then this. So this should, going down to check a few things. Item, see him? Biting the lip. Set selected. There we go. Item data. Okay. Data. Type of item. We go back to our window. I think we have to close and reopen it for this to work, but because we have to call the init. Moosecats are all there. Adventures are all there. Hey, our items are there now. And we can make new ones if we want to. So we could have a fork. And look at this. We've now got a fork. Obviously, we got to fix the name. but it's there. I think that's the case for all of these. Like, while it does name the object, yeah, it doesn't name like the breed or anything, which we could fix later, but I don't imagine you'd be adding things so quickly that this would matter. I've been wrong before, though. So now we've got a fork and a spoon, and we'll see that it added it in the right location. Gravy. And later, if we want to make a folder here for just these scriptable objects, it'll actually add, whenever I'm doing this stuff here, it'll correctly put it in the right location, because it'll always be based off of the first one of these that it finds. Fantastic. So we go back to our adventures, and we'll say into the Great Wood, we're going to add fork and spoon. So, and you can see, you actually can't see, but when I hover over this, it mentions that you'll get everything when it's finished, and that we can add wait tables later. So this means that we then need to look into the functionality of adventures when it comes to, I believe, the adventure completer. Because right now, all that does is set the status to inactive. And I don't think we even have the capacity to quote-unquote consume an adventure right now. Because I believe that happens on adventure complete submitted. And we can double check with a bit of the old debug log. And just wait for it to finish. Hydration. Keep putting it on this one tiny screw on my desk. Sure enough, it sent ready to complete, which is not what we were worried about. On ready. Let's see here. Okay, we can turn off that debug because we don't care about that one. But as we can see, this hasn't actually fired. And if we fire it, we do get a null reference. And the reason we get a null reference is because we didn't send through the adventure data itself. And the question becomes, do we need it? I think not. I think that we could put the selected adventure here. And down here, we can stop expecting an object. Delete this. Do that. And this will help us keep track of what we are doing. So that's going to be fine. So now we'll go through stage 2, which is testing. So when we open this, Muslims is done with this adventure. Indeed. We are not setting... Oh, no, it is set, and it is correct right now. because it found Moosums. So that means that if we were to go to... Well, first things first, we need to fix the event real quick. If we were to go to this event and call it... Oh, we still got a no reference there. Let's see, what line? So selected adventure right now is nulled out. And let us figure out why. That's fine, that's not what we needed. No, it's not nulled out. Fascinating. Well, let's fix this completer real quick. Ah, oh. Wait, why is that showing up as a class? Ah, right, okay. We're good, we're good. Just part of getting tired, you know? All fine. As long as you can solve it nice and quick, who really cares? Don't really need to keep backing out, but can't help it. So we come in. We're good so far. Click on that event. And adventure completing into the Great Woods. Cool. So the next thing we need to do from this class, which I still feel has a terrible name, but I maybe will eventually figure out how to make it better, is we need access to our item data. And I don't think we need access to anything else. So what we're going to do is for each item, item in selected adventure.value.adventure.rewards, we are going to look up okay, so this should be fine. We're gonna find item where item.item name equals item.name. Kind of a messy, heavy lookup, but that's fine. And what we're gonna say, oh, what did we mess up here? And then we're gonna say inventory item dot count plus plus. So we're gonna find the item, and then we're gonna increment the count by 1. Pretty simple. And if inventory item exists, so is that not? Does not equal null. Okay. We're gonna do this. Otherwise, we can actually just do it this way. And then if there is no item, I've said before that we shouldn't do double negatives. All right, so item data dot add. So we're going to add a new item datum, which they are classes. Good. we don't currently have a constructor for this. But we can add one. We do need the name for lookup. Okay. Public item name, string item name, and int count. This dot item name equals item name. This dot count equals count. Okay. Come back over here. Item dot name, and we'll say 1. Because we haven't established how many of the thing you get from the rewards yet. But we should make a note of that. Yeah, there we go. So now we got some good notes for future us, maybe for tomorrow's video or something like that. Although I did mention I already want to fix the variables. So if it doesn't exist, we will add it and move on to the next item. If it does exist, we'll just add 1 for now. And that should be it. And we could speed up this sort of lookup here by swapping probably to basically mirroring or doing dictionaries, something like that, basically having that sort of a lookup, but we won't worry about it for now. So let's see here. We have our data. Go check our adventure. It's got the fork and the spoon. And we'll open it, show the adventure book, and let it go through its thing. Have a sip of water right when the music's getting quiet, apparently. It's done. We open it. We confusingly haven't added our submit button yet, but we'll do it once more by hand, and then from there, we'll go for it. Okay. So where was the issue? I did it again. Well, we'll fix a few things here while we're on this topic. Forgot that. Let's go down here, and we're gonna add another button. Okay. Okay, so we need to go into the scene view. Do we even want a close button? Nah. We want... complete submitted, right? Yeah. And then the other thing this is going to do is consume this window. For now. I will eventually get a X button going. Let's check our items real quick. Data structures, items. Get rid of that. So Antlores has been assigned to Into the Great Woods. They're off on an adventure. We'll close out of here, open up this window, and if we hit the complete quest button, we now have a fork and a spoon in our inventory. All right. And then if we save our data, we can see down here that that's adventures. We didn't add a debug for it yet. Okay, that's fine. So now we'll work on that next. Yeah, I'm glad I did this tonight. Getting through some stuff, you know? Because next we can start looking at our... We'll do the saving and loading and make sure that's all good. But, oh, whoops, we accidentally saved Antlers in the adventure. But can we do it? Ah, the adventure's progress is already done. I guess that's not a problem, per se. Now we've got a fork and a spoon. Guess might as well just keep going. Let's delete our spoon and see if we get fork times 2 and 1 spoon. We do indeed. Awesome. One thing we're noticing is that when we finish an adventure, we are not resetting a few things. First things first, as noted here, so reward all items 1. Next, we set adventure time back, progress back to 0. Do I have a set? Reset. And if I go and look at that, progress and party counter set to 0. Okay. But before that, we need to go through... So we need Moosecat data here. Which, place your bets on if I'm going to remember to assign this before I hit play and try it. I don't think, maybe odds will be good that I will, because I'm thinking about it right now. So if I assign them to null, I did think about that. Awesome. I like when Past Me thinks about these things. So we unassign all the Moosecats, then we set progress to 0, and then we set it to inactive. You could argue that reset should do the same thing, but for now, let's not do that. So we'll go into our adventure data. And we'll just, no, you know what? We'll go the whole shebang. Because we see saving and loading is working. Oh, what's this? Adventure GUI, Adventure Editor GUI. Well, let's close this real quick, clear, and try again, and see if it throws it again, because then we can try and fix it. Okay, so it is happening. Let's see why. It's happening because there are... Oh, that's a good question. So it's when the Antlers is assigned. Adventures.count, and the slots list is obviously smaller. $50. Okay. So generate adventure slots. Population is happening before initialization. And that's because of IO. So what we could do now, we go look at init adventure editor. So population happens in response to on adventure editing. We could choose to initialize before that to save us a bit of a headache. Oh, okay, I see what copying and pasting does there. Or... because this is an IO, so I'm debating if I want to have a special... no, we want to keep everything going through the same flow. So sure, we will populate and then run the initialize beforehand. That way we always know that it is ready before the copy. We always know it's ready before we need it. Apply, please. It's a little bit hacky, but this system will probably change in the future anyways. Hey, and now the error's gone. So we'll go in to adventure. It's already done. We open up this window and we hit complete. And there it is. I forgot to hook it up because I got distracted by that bug. That's really funny. That's how they get you. Okay. That's a lot of disabling. I will probably fix that later. Someday. We can click, and we got this window. Obviously, it's not showing us what you can win, but we know we can get that information because we are already using it for this next part. Oh. So why is it assigning it? Oh, Past Me didn't think about this, actually. Dang it, buddy. I thought we were on the same page. So what this should have been is... so adventure equals null. And then if the value coming through does not equal null, then this is what you get. I don't like how I'm writing that. Yeah, we could just do an if-else, I suppose. Otherwise... and we can get rid of this ternary now because we don't need it. There we go. That'll work. Oh, excuse me. I tell you, my GI tract is an absolute nightmare. And to adventure, close, open, and this was not, okay, so that's, we're not clearing on play right now, okay. Complete. And then we will check. Progress is indeed at 0, party count is indeed at 0. We'll go check the Moosecats. All of them are not on adventures, so now we're going to save. We can see down here. My light just randomly turned off and on. That was weird. Speaking of which, man, my camera makes me red. I need to fix that sometime. I can assure you I'm only 30% this red. So we look down here in the save area. We've got 5 forks, 4 spoons. We don't really mind or care that the selected datum stuff is saved. It's not a big deal. The adventures are all in the correct state. So we can close it, reopen. Go to an adventure. Obviously at this point you could save something in progress, but we don't have support for that yet when the IO loads, I don't think. So that'll be something we'll have to resolve at some point. And we'll check our items again. Cool. So what did we do tonight? Although, man, it's only 8:52. I'm kind of tempted to try and do a bit more. We've got the... Oh, maybe we'll play a game. That sounds good. We've added in the items IO system. We've got the items showing up in our game manager, so we can now add new ones anytime we want. We have yet... Oh, we have an error in our drawing. I only did it once. We'll worry about that some other time. We've got adventures can now be completed through the GUI. Completing them resets the adventures and resets the Moosecat that was on the adventure. We know that a lot of this will change in the long run. We're just sort of building base functionality, and then we can go through and iterate and improve on everything as we know more and more about what the final game will look like. And yeah. So one of the last things we could do for funsies is we could set up the initialization process when the completed status window opens, and technically also the in progress status window, so that they show what rewards a particular adventure will give. So let's play around. We're going to go into our game manager. We're going to switch over to our debug adventure, and we're going to have that just give you a spoon. Just the 1 spoon. Actually, you know what? For you, 2 spoons. So now we've got our 2 spoons for our debug adventure, our fork and spoon for the Into the Great Woods, and everything else is set up the way that we want it. So we're going to go into our classes here. And what we don't have as we look here is we don't have, when we look down at our populating for the windows, we don't have access to those text mesh bodies that are in our GUI. So let's go look at that real quick. And we can see here that we have our rewards list, and our rewards text mesh is currently just a text mesh pro object. Nothing exciting. We need to make it a prefab. And let's see, where's the best place to do that? His brain completely shuts down. That's fine though. Right here. We'll get through it together, team. So here we'll make a C# script, adventure reward GUI reward display GUI. Bit wordy, but can always rename it later, make a new one. What's gonna be in here? Great question. We're gonna have first things first, using Unity engine.ui, and then we're gonna do private sprite. Private image. Image is fine. No need to reinvent the wheel. Private text mesh. Using TM Pro. Private text mesh pro UGUI. Name text mesh. And from here, we need to do a public void set, and it's fine. Except every time I do it, that blasted. Okay. The image will be passing through a sprite, and we will be passing through a title, or let's go with name. Image dot sprite equals art, and name text mesh dot text equals name. Easy peasy. So we come back over to this reward text mesh, and we'll just call it a reward item. We will grab that script, and we need to add a little bit to this. So we're just gonna child that. This is actually going to center. That's good. We're going to delete a few things from the original body. Add that. And now we're going to add an image. And you'll remember the spoon doesn't have an image yet, and I'm probably going to forget, but that's okay. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. And we'll move that in a bit. And we could even do this and have it associated with, whoops, wrong side, with the side of the text mesh body, so that if it were to stretch, the image would move to the left. And an example of that would be that. Cool, right? I mean, you've probably done that already, but... Hydration! Delete this, because we don't want any confusion. All right, so now we've got our prefab that we can drop in here. And we know now what we're looking to add in here. And what we can do is, for the population of the window, for each item in selected adventure.value.adventure.rewards, we're going to want to populate, and we probably want to have a list up here. I call it a pool right now, but we're probably going to just delete them all each time. And we also would like reward parent. Okay. come look at our window. This is our reward parent. Delete this prefab. Our prefab is here. The pool will be fine. Pool dot breach R whoops, destroy. Kind of don't like how I wrote that, so let's fix that real quick. And again, I know this isn't technically how a pool works, but it's fine. We're just doing this for now so that we can work through the stuff. And so we're gonna have instantiate reward prefab form.set parent world state position false, and then we're gonna say there we go, and that should take care of that. Next we can go into the actual, and we obviously need all that, do that for the completer one as well, but we can go into our game manager, find the spoon really quick, or the fork? Yeah, the fork, and we'll make the fork a drop down arrow. Okay. So suppose we can, again, we need this, whenever you're doing this, this suggests that you need to go through and merge some stuff. But I'm not super worried about it at the moment because we want to see this work. And once it works, then we can go back and work our magic. No. Let's at least keep it in the same order. Reward parent is here. Delete. Open the prefab, please. Delete that. Reward list is here. The prefab is here. The pool is fine. Everything else is fine. So now, when we open up those windows, obviously we don't have it on this one at the moment. We send them on an adventure. We see them here. We got the fork and the spoon, and you can see that they have their art. And when we're on this window, we can also see fork and spoon. All works correctly. We don't have the Moosecat's names right now, but that'll be basically exactly what I just did here. We complete that. We go into the adventure book. We can see that it's 0 and 10. There's no Moosecats here. Come into this one. We can add any of them because they're all free. So we'll... wait. Why did that open the room selection window? You're being naughty, mister. Oh, because I literally selected a room. Well, I'm going to turn you off because I'm trying to explain something. We'll figure out the raycasting thing in a bit here. Not tonight, probably, but just in general. We add our 2 Moosecats. We send them on an adventure. We close it. We look at it. We can see that this had... Oh, fork, spoon, spoon, spoon. Oh. It's not destroying them. Because we're not actually adding them to the pool. think that's right. See, that's why you test stuff. Because that's just too much cutlery. Okay. Working it. Going through that adventure. Complete. Show adventure book. Add a couple Moosecats. Go on the adventure. Yeah, we see spoon and spoon this time instead of fork and spoon. And when we go look at our items, 8 and 7, 8 and 9. Because we got 2 spoons. Awesome. So obviously we have a flow issue with this window, because what happens is when you click this, it disables these two, and then it enables. Now it's enabling because we're hiding the other window, and it is disabling because of this. So what you could do, if you wanted to fix this, I suppose, but we'll put a to-do on this. So now it's enabled, but then it's disabled. So now we can't click on the stuff in the background. So we fixed that. That's a problem for a future me. Oh, interesting. Party is full, but we can see here. Oh, I did just edit code. That's probably why. Because if we go look at the adventure, yeah. But let's double check. Let's make sure. Okay, so it is cleared. We'll start it up. We'll close it. Give it a moment. See how it goes. Okay, adventure is stopped. Open this up. Complete it. Yeah, party count is 0. Check our Moosecats. None of them are on adventures. Nice. Let's see what happens if we save in the middle of an adventure. So when I open... Alright, as expected, it didn't start the adventure again. So let's look. How would we go about doing that? So its status would currently be active. Wonder why I wasn't serializing that. That's a good question. Why wasn't I serializing that? I don't know. So we go back and look. So now if we'll pick an, oh. Right, that makes sense because it was in the middle of going. Okay. So let's clear this out a bit. There, that is what I was expecting. Okay. So the problem is it's set to inactive. So if we set it to active, okay. Save data. Does it save that information now? That is the cat data, room data, adventure data. Yes, it is saving the status. So now we'll close it and we'll hit play. And we see that it is indeed moving up when you restart. So let's see, does it actually set the progress back? It does. Okay. So now what we need to do is when the adventures are reloaded, we go look at our progress updater. What was instantiating our tokens? That was our generator? Yeah. So our generator needs to see that an adventure has started. So we go back and we look at our adventure loader. And we see it loading the adventures here. And then with our adventure started, we find references in the scene, and we see that the adventure editor is what triggers that because of a set adventure in progress, which is triggered on onto adventure being submitted, which we find is, oh, it was the to adventure button. Okay. So then we would want to go into our adventure loader. And then down here we would say status active. Okay. Which is probably what this was, being perfectly honest. So yeah, let's actually do that down. Does it matter? That's the selector. This is the editor. Don't need that one out. Don't need this one on. Don't need this one on or that. We have opened quite a few things today. That's good. Means we're getting around. And I seem to, for the most part, not be getting too lost. Okay, so this does work off selected adventure. So we would want to select the adventure and then trigger it if we deem it okay. Constructor. That takes blank. I must have died while I was working on that one. Okay, so this makes sense to me. So this is the loader. Do we perhaps want... Well, no, because they are definitely running. So I guess we do want some kind of... I'm gonna get rid of this. We probably want near the end of the load process to... So when we go back and look at our things, so we have the Moosecat loader. So rooms load, Moosecats load, adventures load. Moosecats are connected to a room. Moosecats are connected to an adventure. So what we want right after this is a adventure starter, something like that. So this would probably, when we go to finish making more of our news ticker system, this would probably be one of multiple sort of news ticker updater things that would go off. Man, I got like bug bite or something on my knee that's just fiending. Restarter's fine. We'll go back up into our project window. And we've got our progress updater. Load systems? Yeah. Create a new folder. Ensure token restarter. And this class is pretty simple. It's going to need access to a few things. Adventure data. It's going to need access to the game event. It's then going to need access to another game event, which is and then we can do a public void. And so we would go for each adventure datum in adventure data on adventure select. Oh, whoops. Dot data. Dot raise adventure datum. So this would select it. And then this would add the node where applicable. And what we want to say here is if adventure datum dot value adventure status, if the status equals active, or if the adventure equals ready to complete. There's a pretty nerdy thing that I'll have to look up later with bit shifting and other nonsense. But probably not super helpful. I just know I should probably get into the habit of doing it. Wow, the things people write. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore that stuff for now. Private do that for now. Eventually this will be just an array of restarters. And then we come down here, set that. Whoops. And then okay. And that should generate the token. It did. But we see a bunch of no reference errors, so let's figure out why. Oh, not that. Okay, so on update adventure progress, that's fine. This should all be happening on the same frame. Okay, they were all assigned. Well, let's stop and press play again and then immediately pause. I guess we could have just done error pause. So is this beating us somehow? Okay, status is inactive, which is neither of these two, so we'll put a ping here. The next one, status is active, which is the case. We would send the selection, which is the case. Wrong thing. So that is happening. So we'll go back to our selector. And we are passing that through. So we'll do a breakpoint here. So what's happening is our progress updater, when it raises this object, has no adventure attached to it, which tells me that while it was generated, it did not get the data it needed, which is because I'm not passing this data through. But if we go down here, I am. Ah, okay. That was easier to fix than I thought it would be. As it gets later and later, you start to wane on your brain. There you go. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with that. Go give this video a little bit of a snippy snip. Not that there's any good, I mean, this whole video is going up in one chunk, but I'm gonna get rid of some intro at least. So yeah, what did we accomplish? We got items added. The adventure windows are mostly complete enough for us to go through and do our dev work. We've got the item showing down here. Maybe next time we'll show the Moosecat names, because again, that's not gonna be hard. Could even show the Moosecat pictures for that matter. And we've got a restarter, which will be a class of its own for status stuff later. We got the reward clone. Matter of fact, I could just glance the source tree for a reminder. We now serialize the status of the quests. We now can unassign Moosecats from adventures. We removed a few using statements, nothing too exciting. We've added items to our game manager. We have updated our data initializer to restart those tokens. We have changed the catalog a little bit to accept non-mana behaviors for the first generic, because we find that very useful. Even if it does sort of taint the notion of a prefab catalog, but I can always just sort of remember that it's still prefabs, but anyways. We've got the new on adventure ready to complete asset. Initialization changed a bit. Adventures, we fixed up some stuff, added rewards to adventures. We updated the adventure completer so that it will give you the items that you got. It will remove the Moosecats. It'll reset the status of the adventure. We added some rewards to the adventure so we could test that. We now have, this is actually from before, but we have the on open event so that when debug or when any GUI window opens, if you want something to be associated with that, you can attach a on open event to that. We've got the progress tokens consuming properly. We've updated the adventure book controller to, or just the adventure book is a broad concept, to support, oh hey Artemis, the in progress and completed. We have a close button. What else? Reward content is now a thing that is supported. We have the pools that get removed, as you saw. And yeah. Moved some currency stuff, renamed that. Yeah, it was a pretty productive couple hours, I would say. So, if you did watch here on the old Twitcheroo, thank you for watching here. If you're watching the stream on YouTube, thank you for watching there. And just in broad strokes, if you see this at any point, or if you don't, you'll never know about this next part if you don't. Yeah, I hope you have a nice day.